Hi guys, Mike from the Life Junkies here, and I'm here to talk about my plan for a WWE title belt revamp. Now, recently in the podcast with Chris, I've mentioned a certain malaise with the current WWE title system. If you count the Cruiserweight and NXT titles, WWE has 7 world titles with 9 secondary titles beneath them. And after Elimination Chamber, that 9 will be 10 with the introduction of the women's tag team titles. Even after take away the NXT belts, that will be 10 belts to be defended at every pay-per-view. It's no wonder that the belts are meaning less and less, where every feud seems to have one as a prop to justify a pay-per-view match. So, with every pay-per-view being a joint brand event, and Fox reportedly pushing for WWE to end the brand split when they take on SmackDown in October, this is the perfect time to freshen up the belts and give them some relevance moving forward to 2020. Now, WWE have already made steps towards this by bringing in a single WWE Women's Tag Team title. It's a single title that will be defended on both brands, going against the men's tag team belts, which are single branded and both look exactly the same, bar the red-blue colour change. This gives it some prestige right off the bat. These belts are unique, and while it's a shame they won't carry on the lineage of originals, it's a step in the right direction just for them to be singular. So, what does WWE need to do to fix the belt problem? First off, let's ignore the NXT and NXT UK titles. They're doing just fine right now, and while I'd argue that NXT doesn't necessarily need a secondary belt, it is being put to good use, which isn't something that's happening up on the main roster. At this point, it would be easy to point fingers at WWE Creative. If NXT can book these titles properly, why can't they? Well, this still leaves us with 10 titles that need to be filled and defended. That pushes room out for rivalries without a belt at stake, sees belts used as nothing more than props, and finally, sees them not defended at all. Also, the more relaxed way the NXT brand can be booked helps it here. We don't see every wrestler on the roster every week. They don't need to cram everyone in the show or every takeover. This is a luxury the main roster just doesn't have. So if we can't just magically improve a booking, then what can we do? First off, I'd get rid of 205 Live. It holds talent back who could be making waves on the main roster. Get rid of that and bring the Cruiserweight title and division to the main shows. Second, in the words of Matt Hardy, we delete some of the current WWE title belts and make them obsolete. Say goodbye to the SmackDown Women's title and Tag Team titles. And more importantly, say goodbye to the Universal title. It's been botched from the start to finish and deserves to be resigned to a single page in the history books. Then we announce the Cruiserweight title as an official world title while renaming the WWE title to the WWE World Heavyweight title. I know this brings up memories of the best looking wrestling belt in history, the big gold belt. That's not part of this plan. No, the idea here is to create 2 weight divisions within the men's division. I know I've just said we need to get rid of 205 Live because it creates barriers to talent, and now I've just created a massive one to block talent for competing for the main belt. Hear me out here. Anyone that has seen NXT will have seen the amazing work that guys like Johnny Gargano are doing there. He, in particular, is more than ready for the main roster, but as my wrestling podcast co-host Chris rightly pointed out, can you really see him getting a push? Defeating guys like Brock Lesnar for a belt? No. We can't even let main roster world champions like AJ Styles or Daniel Bryan beat him, so no small guys have a chance. So what we're doing here is we let these guys do what they do best and bring the Cruiserweight title to the same level as the WWE title. Just with smaller guys and probably better matches. This leaves us with 3 world champions that defend these belts at every pay-per-view. Under them, we mix the men's division into one, with anyone able to go for the men's tag team belts or the Intercontinental title, which can be defended on TV and pay-per-view. Now, I've missed one belt out here. That is the United States title. At this stage, it's been so badly booked that it means nothing. Vince obviously doesn't rate a title that was created in WCW, so why have it on the show at all? Merge it with the IC title and bring in a completely new and fresh title. The title is the WWE Television title. This is a title that will only be defended on TV. Give it a mandatory amount of time that it needs to be defended within, for example, every 2 weeks, and we have something different from the IC title that can give a different dynamic to WWE Television each week. Now, I did toy with the idea of having a separate men's division right down to the bottom, but that would just rob us of so many interesting matchups while forcing me to add more title belts that we just don't need to. The rarity of something is what makes it prestigious, whether that's one wrestler holding the title belt for a long time and defending it every week, giving it that level of need, or if it's just something simply being unique. And as we're finding out right now, if you just fill at the place of belts, they mean less and less. And finally, you're left with whoever US title is right now, which is nothing more than a joke held by a wrestler who has been treated like a joke for the past 5 years, being passed around 3 or 4 men in the space of 2 weeks to a month. And that is doing a disservice to the belts and the wrestlers that are supposed to hold them. Finally, I get to the women's division. Now, does it make sense to split the women into 2 different weight classes? As we saw at the Royal Rumble, the roster is still too thin to be able to sustain 2 divisions. And, bearing a few exceptions, most of them are about the same size. We already have 2 titles in the women's division, the WWE Women's World title and the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. So, all I want to do here is add a single secondary title on about the same level as the IC title for new women to fight for and use as a springboard to main event status. I've decided against adding a women's TV title here, as I don't think the main roster is deep enough and I don't think it's needed. So, what does this leave us with? Well, it leaves us with 3 world titles that are defended every pay-per-view. I'm looking at you, Brock Lesnar. It also leaves us with 2 tag team titles, men and a women's, and then 3 secondary titles. That's the IC title, the women's, let's call it a women's IC title for now, and the men's TV title. Platform to work from, but also gives them the scope to do more feuds that aren't based around titles and that can actually be storyline driven. So there you have it, my WWE title revamp plan. Do you agree? If not, what would you change? Or do you think the titles are fine as they are? No matter your opinion, let me know in the comments, and as usual, like, share and subscribe. There's a YouTube contract somewhere that means I have to say these things at the end of every video. Also, while you're still here, how about giving the post-Rumble review show that I did with co-host Chris a listen? That should be on the screen right now. We talk NXT TakeOver Phoenix and WWE Royal Rumble. Or, if you just something a little different, how about my latest Football Manager tactic video? That's worth a click and should also be on the screen right now. Guys, and thanks for watching.